Welcome back to Formations of a Noble Woman, where we walk together in biblical homemaking, faith-filled living, and joyful simplicity. In today's video, I'm sharing wholesome weekly meals for the Christian homemaker, meals we actually ate in our home over the past week. They are nourishing, budget-friendly, and perfect for anyone embracing frugal living with faith and purpose. If you're looking for meal inspiration that aligns with Proverbs 31 rhythms and home-centered stewardship, this video is for you. My name is Clara, and I share simple, peaceful rhythms for Christian women and homemakers. Through Formations of a Noble Woman, I encourage biblical homemaking, frugal living, faith-filled hospitality, and discipleship as we grow together into the women God is forming us to be. Our first meal is a very simple and delightful meal that we are making out of leftover chapati. Basically, beat some eggs, added some salt, beat again so that the salt could mix in well, and then just covered the chapati with egg. I find this a very simple way of working with leftover chapati and turning it into a very delightful breakfast recipe. These are actually pumpkin chapatis, and they really turned out very delicious with this egg covered chapati way of cooking this chapati. And of course, we are working with our Kenyan tea that I'm cooking on the side. I've dropped in some rosemary because we love our tea these days with rosemary. I think every season we keep spicing it differently. There are seasons we've spiced it with lemongrass, or you just put the normal tea masala. You can also put fresh ginger. Just grate it and drop it in. I have actually done a recipe of a full Kenyan tea in our forthcoming cookbook. In case you're not aware, I'm almost launching my cookbook with over 170 recipes in that cookbook that you will really love and enjoy. And one of the recipes there is how to make Kenyan tea or Kenyan chai. I'm working with a family of 4. But of course, you can work with a larger family. A lot of times I cook for about 4 to 6 people because once in a while you will have a guest, and so it's good to just increase your portions a little more to accommodate hospitality. So I'm slicing some tomato that I've washed thoroughly, and this is going to form part of our breakfast. I happen to have a lot of tomatoes. If you've been watching the recent videos, tomatoes have been fairly cheap in the market, and so they have come in handy as we work with our frugal meals. As always, like I have mentioned before, I always love to have bread on hand, and once again in the evening I had worked on some sourdough sandwich bread dough. You can work with any recipe that you would prefer, because also in our cookbook I have quite a number of recipes in there that would be very helpful. So this one, I did one that would fit 3 loaves, because once I make bread, especially at the beginning of the week, it really rescues me many times, especially for lunch hours. And this was one of the lunch hours that it was very helpful. So basically I beat it down. I'm going to arrange it in my bread pans, allow it to rest for another hour or so. If I don't have a lot of time, even 30 minutes, and then we will go ahead and bake our bread and work with it when we need it. So while that was continuing to proof, we went ahead and continued with our breakfast, and this is how we served our fried egg chapati. We arranged the tomatoes on the chapatis and then sprinkled some salt on the tomatoes, and that's the sandwich that we made with our chapati, and we really enjoyed this meal. I want to trust that when you try it also, you will enjoy. It doesn't have to be pumpkin chapati, any chapati, of course with our Kenyan tea. And because I had served a fairly elaborate breakfast, I did a very light lunch, and that was basically bread with tomato sandwich. That's it. My mother introduced us to this sandwich, and I have personally loved it over the years, so that when I want something very simple and I have ripe tomatoes, that is a sandwich I go for. Basically apply the bread with some margarine or butter, arrange your tomatoes on the bread, sprinkle on some salt. If you like pepper, you can also sprinkle pepper, and sandwich that with another piece of bread. And there you have your complete meal, of course with some tea or lemon tea or whatever you would want it with. Again, having mentioned lemon tea, that's one of the other recipes that are in our cookbook, together with so many others. So that was the bread that basically baked and by now it had cooled somewhat, and we were good to go with it for our lunch. This is the evening of the next day, because some of the meals I wasn't able to capture them, or other times because we fast once a week, and because this is a Christian channel, of course it's good to mention fasting, because fasting at least once a week for us has been very helpful for our spiritual journey, as we trust the Lord concerning many aspects of our lives. So this was a day we didn't cook, apart from our children who did something for themselves, which of course I couldn't capture. And now this was the evening, and so I have some onion, about 2 medium-sized onions. I've added some salt, I've added some pepper, and I have added some paprika, and then this is gram flour. We are making a simple form of bajia. It's a bajia recipe, especially if you don't have the normal ingredients that we know go with bajia, like cilantro, or any other ingredient that you find preferable. Onion will give your bajia a very delightful, sharp taste that you will enjoy. I'm not sure whether to call it sharp, but a very delightful taste. So as long as I have onions and I have potatoes, I will go ahead and work with my potatoes. In this bajia recipe, I have mixed the ingredients, the gram flour and the other ingredients, with some water to get a very thick paste-like texture. And I've dropped in some potatoes that I will usually drop in a few at a time, because when they stay too long in the bajia gram flour mixture, they make that mixture soggy. I think they release water. So once you've covered the pieces with the bajia paste, or the bajia batter, would I say, just pick a piece each and drop it into cooking oil, hot enough. As you saw, I tasted it with one of the pieces. When the pieces came out cooked, I dropped in the rest of them, covered with that mixture, and we cooked on both sides for a few minutes until they were ready, and then continued with the remaining ones. A very delicious meal that my daughters always look forward to, and I trust you will enjoy it as well. In the cookbook, I also have quite a number of bajia recipes. I think there are 3 because they are very different, very different. One of them is a bajia recipe that you can work with if you don't have gram flour. And I show you what to do now that it may not, gram flour has protein. So if you don't have gram flour, I share a recipe in the cookbook that is coming soon. It will be linked in the description once it is launched. I trust the Lord it will be launched soon. I have a recipe over there that is very nice, and I show you what to do in order to add protein to your bajia. Along with this bajia, again, I paired it off with a very simple tomato chutney recipe. Again, a recipe that will be in our cookbook, where I basically lightly fry, tomatoes. I've cut them in half, arranged them in a pan where I had put about 2 tablespoons of cooking oil and some garlic. I allow that to just fry until the tomatoes kind of get a roasty texture, not burn, but just get a roasty texture on the surface that is, in contact with the pan. Then I will skin the tomatoes, remove the outer skins because they have now softened. You can remove them, mash, add some lemon juice, add onion, mix that. You can also add some salt and then add some pepper if you like pepper. Add spices of choice, mix that, and then you will see how it looks. Mix that, cook for a minute, and that's it. A wonderful dip for our bajia. I didn't have cilantro, and that's why I didn't add it to this chutney, but cilantro does very well in this chutney, just the way it would do very well in the bajia if you had it. So I didn't add, but the missing ingredient in this tomato chutney is that. But of course, the full recipe will be in the cookbook. Some of the recipes are also over on the blog. So basically our meal is ready once that chutney has cooked for about a minute. So we will go ahead and serve our delightful meal. Sometimes if you find bajia, that's what I do, is going to take you very long to fry. Sometimes I will pair it off with also some rice, maybe leftover rice or carried forward rice, or some pasta or spaghetti, just to ensure you're not making a lot of bajia. Now that you want people's stomachs full, you can also include something else alongside your bajia. But if you can do bajia like I have done, just one meal, that's still fine. So we will have our chutney on the side and dip and enjoy our bajia. At least one of the mornings, and especially Mondays, though this was not a Monday, I like to have either a drop scone recipe or a pancake recipe or just something special, even mandazi, just to start the week off. And if I haven't done that on a Monday, most likely one of the days of the week I will do this. And that's why on this particular day I was working on pancake that I make very loose. As you can see, I have the recipe over on our other channel as well as it in the cookbook. Why I love cookbooks is because rather than look for a recipe all over the place, you know where it is in the cookbook, so you can go straight to it and find it and work with it. Anyway, so that recipe is available on our other channel as well as in the cookbook. Slightly heavier than crepes. The crepes, well, I think that's the spelling. The other very loose pancake type. So it's somewhere between the normal pancake dough and the crepes dough, fairly runny. I love it to spread almost by itself in the pan, and I find it tasting better when it's not too runny again, but somehow runny, but it's again not too thick. I find it tasting nice. So that's what we are having for breakfast on this particular morning. Another tip that I always share on this channel that I love to talk about when I'm making chapati, when I'm making drop scones, when I'm making pancakes, is working with multiple pans. When I work with multiple pans, most of the time I work with 3, but if I'm working on something else, I will do 2. I find those kind of meals I've just mentioned taking way too long, so that if you're not working with multiple pans, you can find yourself on your feet in the kitchen for so long. So if you can train yourself to work with several pans, maybe 4 or 3 if you can manage 4, but 3, at least 2, that will shorten your time in the kitchen and make the process even more enjoyable. It's a cold season right now where I am, usually between June to early September. We have very cold months, but sometimes, and I'm grateful for God's intervention and providence, we will have warm days. But who wouldn't mind a glass of juice? Of course, I was testing this for my cookbook, but we love juice, especially fresh juice. And so I was working on a recipe of pineapple juice that I will share in the cookbook. I have a version of the same over on our other channel where I cut up pineapple. First of all, I had cut off the outer part, as you saw, avoiding going deep into the pineapple, because if you go too deep and cut they call them the eyes of the pineapple, the water that you're going to form out of the peels is going to be bitter. So I just cut thinly on the surface, put the peels in some water, and then boiled that and allowed it to cool. So that's what we were going to use. As you can see, I'm using that water. I boiled for about 10 minutes and then used it. Added some sugar. You can also add honey if you would rather use honey. And then once I had blended the pineapple juice, thankfully the full recipe, I'm not sure I've given you a comprehensive explanation, but thankfully the full recipe will be in our cookbook. I love to sieve just to get the fiber out. I normally tell myself we'll get fiber. In other ways, we just want many times to enjoy a smooth glass of juice. So that's what we were going to have for our lunch, together with one of the loaves that I had made a few days earlier, as you saw. And this is a recipe that I just thought of in my mind, but I haven't perfected it. I know there's nothing new under the sun, so I know somebody else has done this. So if I make a mistake, as probably I did, I'm going to perfect this recipe and share. But my family loves French toast, and I just thought to myself, I don't want to stand at the gas stove and work on French toast for a while. As you know, it will take a while. So what I decided to do is to bake instead. So I added some salt in my egg, added about 3 tablespoons of cooking oil, greased a baking sheet, and then dipped my bread into the egg one side and arranged on the baking sheet. I didn't have a lot of eggs at this point, so I was going to only toast one side. The mistake I did, I allowed it too long in the oven. About 10 minutes. I probably should have done 5 to 6 minutes because it was tasty, but it had cooked a little too long. But I found this a very simple, easy method of working on French toast. The remaining egg I just applied on the surface and baked that. So we had this for our lunch together with our pineapple juice, and that was it. So that's after 10 minutes turning them. Like I said, if you try this recipe, of course I know you would do your research, please work with less than 10 minutes. Probably I would go for 5 to 6 minutes. So the other side I did about 5 minutes and we were good to go. So as you can see, looking nice, but a little, I would say, overcooked in terms of the egg. But that was our lunch. I didn't capture supper. We came back very late. We needed to be somewhere for some ministry, and so we came back very late the previous night. So I didn't capture that because I did a very quick ugali egg cabbage recipe. That's what we had for supper. So this is morning. I am making some granola. This is my very simple recipe that doesn't have a lot of expensive nuts. I'm working with peanuts because these are available in our country. But if you can afford all kinds of nuts, if you can afford desiccated coconut, someone once suggested in one of the comments in the video where I've done this recipe over on our other channel, it's there, no oven granola, and it will be also in the cookbook. I am working with that recipe, but this time I'm baking in the oven, just to make the process a little more easier. And then I had some green maize a friend had given me when we went for Bible study. She had made a lot of green maize, so she gave us after Bible study because she knew she couldn't finish. So I'm just warming it because it's already cooked. Added some salt because I like my maize with some salt. Added some water. And once it had simmered, reduced the heat to low so that it could simmer and get hot. So that's how I warm fresh maize. And I thought to serve it with granola because, as you know, some of us would prefer something that is not too sweet. And now our granola, by the way, is ready. So I'm just adding in the dried fruit and then pressing it together again so that it can cool and get a bit chunky. We will have that with lemon tea. Now that granola, I'm going to use the milk that we would have used for our tea. We've not been having a lot of milk around here, which is as well, really, because it's helping us to be frugal with our milk. So that milk, we are going to use it for our granola. Of course, I prefer yogurt for granola, but because I don't have yogurt, I just work with milk, pour the milk over the granola, and that's it. So children especially will love granola, but I thought adding maize can take care of us grown-ups as well. But as you know also, fresh maize works very well, especially in our country, as a breakfast option by itself. You can have it with your tea or whatever your beverage. Have your fresh maize, and that's it. I'm working on an interesting recipe, and this is sausage pilau or pilau with sausage. This one is going to be our latest recipe over on Recipes and Hospitality with Clara. So I'll not share the details of this recipe, but you can find it over on our other channel in a day or two at the posting of this video. But for the sake of someone who would want to get to the recipe fast, I will try and link it in the description below. But a very delightful form of pilau. As you know, this is one of our recipes in our country, our star recipes. So adding sausage to no meat pilau just takes it to the next level. So what I did, I cut up my sausage, as you saw, into small sizable pieces, fried it until it was well fried, and then went ahead and did my pilau and then mixed in the sausage so that they could cook together the final 10 minutes, and basically our pilau was ready. So at this point I've just mixed in, we'll cover and give it about 10 minutes, and basically our meal is ready. So you will enjoy this one, I tell you. You will. We enjoyed it a lot, and especially now that I was using the spicy sausage, you will love it. I garnished it with some cilantro. You can work with a side of kachumbari, guacamole, or even a stew of your choice and enjoy this very delightful meal. By the way, that formed part of our supper. My daughters cook one day in a week, and so this final recipe is milk chapatis for breakfast. I thought I would end at breakfast so that this video does not become too long, and I'm going to share in the description also our very simple milk chapati recipe, because it is enriched chapati with milk. You can even add egg. That's why we enjoy it for breakfast a lot. I love it when they cook because they become very creative in their cooking, and also it sharpens their cooking skills. So they have a whole day to serve as breakfast, lunch, supper, and I'm glad they have also learned how to make chapati on more than one pan. And so we really enjoyed these chapatis with our tea. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this video gave you a bit of encouragement or inspiration in your own homemaking, kindly like, subscribe, and share it with another woman walking the same path. For more frugal living ideas, biblical homemaking rhythms, and Christian encouragement, don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel. And if you haven't already, you're welcome to join our free weekly email community for more resources to strengthen your journey as a noble woman. I almost always have a link in the description below where you can join our weekly email community. And you will also get notified once I launch the book, or you can also join us for the launch, God willing, when I launch my cookbook. So you will be among the first to know. So may your kitchen and home reflect the peace and beauty of Christ. As is always our custom, we will pray and trust the Lord to grant us a fruitful time in our homemaking. Indeed, Father, be with me and my viewer. Grant that you will be glorified as you direct us into your purpose and will, as we trust you to be the women you're making us to be and to serve you in our homemaking. Father, be with us. Direct our steps into your will. Glorify your name in our lives and in our homes. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.